I spent the last year posting a tweet every day, and in this video, I'm going to share how I did it, how many followers I gained, and my key takeaways from the experience. In my 11 years on social media, Twitter was the only platform I hadn't figured out until monetization was released and I decided it was time. So on February 13th, 2024, I committed to posting every single day and seeing how many followers I could gain. The first challenge was picking my niche. I had found success by running sports pages on other platforms, but this time I was running a personal account, so there's a lot of ways I could take this. Ultimately, I decided to just post whatever I felt like and then pay attention to what got the most traction. So for the first couple months, I posted about how to grow on social media, things I was learning, hot takes about sports, and a bunch of other stuff. And after a while, it became clear that my content about X monetization was performing the best. Before starting my current account, I had monetized a couple other accounts and received payouts there. So I had been talking about my experience in doing that, and people were finding it valuable. But I'll be honest, that's not really what I wanted to talk about. So I continued mixing in other topics in hopes that something else would take off, but the data didn't lie. Every time I talked about X monetization, my content performed better. So eventually I decided to lean into that and focus my whole account around it. And once I did that, I started to grow more consistently. I never had a post that went crazy viral and gained me a bunch of followers, but the growth was steady. And after 7 months, I finally reached 1,000 followers. By this time, I was now monetized on my personal account as well, so I had even more content to talk about. I shared how I had gotten to where I was, things I was learning, how much I was getting paid, and just anything else that I thought would be helpful to someone trying to follow my footsteps. And it took 7 months to reach 1,000 followers, but then 3 months later, I was at 2,000. A month after that, I was at 3,000. And at the end of the 365 days, I had gained over 3,400 followers, received over 14 million impressions, and earned $375 from monetization. And I'll get into my key takeaways in a second, but what's interesting to me is that most of my progress happened in the final 5 months. It was 7 months of pretty much nothing. And then all of a sudden things took off, and before I knew it, I had over 3,000 followers. And that leads into my 7 key takeaways from the year. Number 1. There are many accounts that share how to grow your account, but just because they have a lot of followers doesn't mean what they say is true. Now, there was some stuff that they shared that was helpful, but I found it more helpful to study other successful accounts. For example, back in late 2024, Tiffany Fong was receiving a ton of engagement from Elon Musk and had received multiple 5-figure payouts. So, like everyone else, I was curious about how she was getting so much engagement aside from the obvious boost that Elon was giving her. And in reviewing her strategy, I noticed that anytime she went viral, she was quoting and replying to the original post as it was blowing up, and that was helping the momentum keep going and getting her even more impressions. And she was able to get tens of millions of impressions by doing this. Tiffany has about 10 times more followers than I do, but I tried her strategy and found that it also works on a smaller scale. So anytime I have a post that overperforms, I now know what to do. This is just one example, but the idea is that when someone's account starts going crazy, I try and review it and assess why that might be happening and see what I can take from their strategy and incorporate on my account. So takeaway number 1 is to model successful accounts. Number 2, in order to hit the For You page, your content has to get a lot of engagement, but it's difficult to get engagement if you don't have any followers. So one way to get more exposure is to reply to other people. I found that if I replied to a list of people in my niche after making a post, it would generally lead to more engagement on my content because these people that I just replied to would often return the favor, and then that would lead to my posts getting shown to more people. So takeaway number 2 is to be a reply guy when you're small. But building on that in number 3, in order to have sustainable growth, eventually people have to start engaging with your content because they like it, not just because you engage with them first. One person that exemplifies this is my friend Ken. Ken has around 3,700 followers at the time I'm filming this, but most likely by the time this video goes live, he'll have a lot more than that because his threads have received over 1 million impressions in just the last few weeks. And sending replies has helped him build up his audience, but you don't go viral by sending the perfect number of replies. You go viral by creating amazing content. Ken's threads have blown up because they are thorough and well-researched, and they also do a great job at hooking the reader. So takeaway number 3 is that Reply Guy helps when you're small, but content is king if you want to blow up. Number 4, many people, including myself, were drawn to X because of the monetization program. However, the monetization program has never been reliable and doesn't look to be getting better anytime soon. The money is a nice bonus every couple weeks, but if your sole purpose in being on X is to get payouts, you're wasting your time. And there are far better ways that you could be making money. So takeaway number 4 is don't rely on payouts. Number 5, to succeed at anything, you have to focus your efforts on the tasks that create the most leverage. On X, that includes creating high quality content and sending genuine replies. But if you spend too much time replying, this can quickly turn into a low leverage activity. Have you ever picked up your phone to do something and then suddenly you realize 30 minutes have passed and you aren't sure why you picked up your phone? This happens to me all the time. I'll go on X to send a few replies and then before I know it, I'm wasting my life away on the For You page. So in order to combat this, I created a list of people that I reply to each day. And then instead of replying to people from the For You page, I only do it from the list. This helps me to stay focused and use my time more effectively, but also it's just helpful for me in general because it helps me avoid some of the rage bait that is so prevalent on this platform. So takeaway number 5 is the less time you spend consuming, the better. Number 6, something I quickly noticed is that people love to complain about the algorithm. And I will agree, X has the worst algorithm I've ever seen, but spending all day complaining about it is not going to do me any favors because I can't control that. Instead of worrying about the algorithm, I should be worried about what steps I can take to move my account forward, such as creating high quality content. Earlier in the video, I mentioned how long it took me to reach 1,000 followers. This is a solid 7 months of very little growth until suddenly there's this massive spike. And this is a classic example of this graphic, which I'm sure you've seen before. If I had given up 6 months in because it's the algorithm's fault, I never would have seen that exponential growth. Instead of worrying about the algorithm, I just focused on showing up every day and eventually the results came. So takeaway number 6 is to focus on inputs, not outcomes. Number 7, one of my biggest regrets from the year is that I didn't try more experiments. I followed pretty much the same routine for 7 months straight and didn't change it until I got so fed up with my lack of progress that I took aggressive action. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be changing your strategy every 2 days, but if you've been following the same routine for a couple months and aren't really seeing results, it's not a bad idea to try changing things up a little. I learned this firsthand in December when I made a few small tweaks to my strategy and it completely changed the trajectory of my account. If you want to hear more about what changes I made, I recommend watching this video here, but if not, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.